Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Travel Show. Every fourth Tuesday, it is time to talk with Debbie Stone. She's an amazing travel writer who's traveled all around the world, all across the country, and she joins us to share her latest adventures. Now, today, we're doing a two-part series because she went to the Azores-Islands of Portugal. Now, I'm probably not pronouncing it the way they do in Portugal, so I apologize. But I'm going to do the best I can, and she can give me some insight when she gets on here. We're going to be doing part one. So today we're going to talk about Terceira, and then part two, so stay tuned for the next part, will be about São Miguel. These are two beautiful islands, volcanic in nature, a lot of good food, some pineapples, some amazing architecture, beautiful views, and she really has a good time. So her articles are up on blendradioandtv.com. You can see them there. And really, all the links are in our show notes. So check that out. So welcome back, Debbie Fire Monkey. We call her Fire Monkey. Sorry, I was being very good about not calling you Fire Monkey, but I can't help it. How are you?
I'm fine. I know you can't help it. So,
I do call you FM too, because we always talk about, FM. So now I'm like FM, Fire Monkey, Debbie. It's a mess, but it's good. But yeah. Listen, you went talking about monkeys. You went hopping all around these volcanic islands. That sounds like a good time.
They're wonderful. They really are a beautiful set of gems right in the middle of the Atlantic, and they are part of Portugal. Although they are like probably less than maybe 2 hours, about 2 hours from the mainland, from Lisbon, which is where I went to. From Lisbon, I flew to Terceira, and then from Terceira, a short hop over to São Miguel. Now, people from in the U.S. who might be interested in going nonstop and direct to the Azores would go from the East Coast, like from Boston to São Miguel, which is the largest of the islands. It is about a 6-hour nonstop flight. So you don't have to do, you can just go right to the Azores if you want.
Wow.
Otherwise, if you are in Portugal already, you can go from Lisbon or from Porto, for example, and then go to the islands. But in any case, they are absolutely spectacular. They are breathtaking in terms of their scenery. They have so many interesting traditions and customs, and it's definitely a very kind of wild and wondrous place, basically. And there's 9 of the islands, major islands, that you can visit. And I chose 2, Terceira and São Miguel.
Okay, and Terceira, what I think is very interesting. So when you talk about, direct flights to Portugal or to these islands, right? Right. From the States, from back east, like Massachusetts, like I know I have friends over back east who are all Portuguese. That is like a huge Portuguese community. And another huge Portuguese community I know of is in Central California in Tulare County. And I've got friends over there that are Portuguese, and I keep going, I want to go to your festivals. They look so fun. Like all the decoration and the dresses. And I mean, it's like Mardi Gras, right? In a way, and you know about that.
It's beautiful. It's a colorful place to visit. And the people are very warm, very hospitable.
Well, there's 2 things I know about the Portuguese. 3. Good bread. They love seafood, and I know you got into that. And they know dairy really well. And so you said in your article about Terceira Island that there were happy cows. We know about happy cows of California, but you found the happy cows on the island of Terceira?
Yes.
So maybe they brought that happy cow goodness to California. That's where they are in Central California. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to put some Portuguese spunk in these cows, make them happy. So,
Well, it's dairy. First of all, dairy is huge in the Azores. They are like, and dairy cows, and there are more cows than people on the island. But there is a special breed of cows called the Ramo Grande breed, which are what they call happy cows, because they simply get to just graze and just enjoy life on the land. And the government gives the farmers like a subsidy, so in order to keep them, so they can keep the breed alive because of the heritage reasons. So, not surprisingly, they look really, really happy.
This
So,
is my land. Yeah. They
yeah,
took ownership.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
they're definitely very, very happy. But I do want to mention that I did get help to go to these islands with a lot of resources, a lot of arrangements that were made through a company that people might be interested in learning about, which is Archipelago Choice, which
Okay.
specializes, they do several different things, but the Azores are one of their top specialties, and they do personalized vacations to the Azores. So if you are interested in wanting to explore any of the islands, they will help you make those arrangements. They will provide you with a wealth of information, guides for you to access private guided trips, and accommodations and transfers and all those things. And they were
So
incredibly helpful.
the website that you have on your article is Azoreschoice.com. That's the
Right.
one, Azores Choice. So it's just because I can't pronounce
Azores.
anything.
Yeah.
Azores,
Yes.
Azores, choice.com. Did I do that part right? Because I can't
Yes.
pronounce anything
Yes.
until I've been there. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
listen.
And people can, they can either go on that one, which takes you directly to their website, specifically with the Azores. If you go to the Archipelago Choice, you will see the Azores as well, but you also see that they do several other destinations
my.
in Europe.
That's awesome. And I will get, why did I go to Azores? I was on Azores. Like, I don't know. I've got my own pronunciation. And it's like we are in Iowa right now when we're recording this. We are in Makokata.
Oh.
Makoka. Yeah, it took me a while there because every time everybody asked me, where are you going in Iowa? I'm like, like, can't. Makota. Now I can do it because I'm here and I had
Yeah.
to have people, it's different when you're in a place. So
Right.
I want to tell everybody in the Azores, I'm sorry for not pronouncing you correctly yet because I haven't been there. And if you want to be correct in pronunciation, the best thing to do is to get your butt skis there. So azoreschoice.com, go check it out. And also read Debbie's article, Fire Monkeys article up on blendradioandtv.com. But your photos and everything, it's really amazing. Am I right? I know we want to talk about the region, but am I right about the food, the cheese, the breads and the fish?
Yes.
Am I right about that? Uh-huh.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, dairy is a strength on the island in terms of, so you're going to have wonderful, wonderful cheese, and then, the seafood, because of course you're, on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So you're going to have incredible seafood. And then something that you have there that they're very well known for in Portugal all over are their pastries. So, that is another wonderful treat that people enjoy when they're there. So, I was happy as a clam because as you well know, I'm a pescatarian and I love my seafood. And so, the fish, everything, the fish, the shellfish, everything was very tasty and delicious. So it's one of those places that I believe, has everything in terms of whether it's history or nature or culture, and then food and wine.
I like it. I like it. Now, let's talk about volcanoes. It seems like the
Yes.
scenery is amazing where you were, just in regards to exploring the area. So you've got history and volcanic amazement happening.
Absolutely. It's, these are volcanic islands. And so you've got one of the few volcanoes that you can actually descend into, which is called Algar do Carvo, and if I pronounce it Carvo. Anyway, it's this incredible formation where you can go deep inside and you see the stalactites and the stalagmites, and you see the basalt that was dumped through when the lava came into these caves. And then there's this huge area that they call the cathedral because it has great acoustics, like some of the caves that I've been in before, that they can actually hold concerts in. So that's an amazing area. And then there's something called the Black Mysteries, which is where the lava came out of the volcano. And so you can see it geographically, blackened areas. And at the time, years ago, people weren't able to explain what everything was, these lava streams. So they called it the Black Mysteries. And you can take a hike around the area. You can look at the volcanic domes. And, the one thing I said in my story, which is important for many people, is you don't have to worry about encountering any snakes because there's no snakes on the Azores. None.
That's wild, isn't it? After all your hiking in the world travels,
Yes.
the snake country.
Absolutely. So that is truly one of those, special places that visitors like to visit, is to see the volcanic formations. And the other that you mentioned, which is history. And history is all over the place. The main town on the island is called Angra, and people call Angra do Hiroshima, or simply Angra. But it is the most important city because it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was previously the capital city of Portugal years ago. And it was given that name because it was a vocation. And also it means, in translation, Angra is like a cove or a bay. So it's describing the location as being a strategic place for routes, for shipping routes, for traveling routes, for exploring routes. It also was given the name Hiroshima or Hiroshima. I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Heroismo, which has to do with being heroic. The citizens were very heroic, and so the Queen Maria II gave that name because they were defending the island against the Spanish. So so it's a very picturesque, very colonial, charming type of town, all black and white mosaics, colorful painted buildings. There's a lot of churches and monasteries, there's a lot of convents, and there's a statue in the middle of the town of Vasco da Gama, the explorer,
I love that.
Explorer.
I love Vasco da Gama. I mean, I go back to my life in South Africa and went to the true. There's the Cape Point, and then there's the tip of South Africa, right, or a tip of Africa, and they'll go, that's the actual tip. And then there's actually the one where Vasco da Gama came up ashore, and I've been to both. And as a kid growing up learning the history of South Africa, and to be where he was, and then now you are in his town, like, dude, I know you're not a dude, but you know what I mean. I'm excited about that.
He got there
amazing.
only because his ship was, so the ships were heading they weren't necessarily heading towards the Azores, but his brother was gravely ill. So they headed towards the land, which happens to be the Azores, and they got out on Terceira, and he died actually in Angra, the city there, and is buried there. And so Vasco actually spent a bit of time there. He was, grieving for his brother. But there's a lot of shipping history. There's a lot of exploring history. Portugal and its explorers were very famous. And so, you feel like, okay, you're in the middle of history. And what's interesting, though, is if you look around at the architecture, you'd think that it is very historic. And what it happened was an earthquake that happened in 1980. So it wasn't that long ago. And it destroyed really a big part of the area. So the people decided to preserve the majority of the original architectural features, but then create what they could based on what they knew from what had existed, so that it would look the same as well. So there is some that is still intact, and then others that was created to look like it did before.
Amazing. So this is where all the colorful buildings come from.
Absolutely.
Oof. And you get
and you get to look at the bay from this town, and you see this beautiful bay. And we were told by our guide that this is a bay that has like 100 shipwrecks in it, because it's like an underwater archaeological park. So it really was a big transatlantic pipeline, for maritime traffic. So it is kind of interesting to know that, what's at the bottom of this bay, this sea,
And then you've got caves. I mean, there's like, it's it's neat because when you think about coastlines and that black volcanic rock, and then the hiking, I mean, the walking area, going on walks and hikes, that had to be a highlight for you. I mean, it's amazing to me. Did you think, I mean, I know we're going to be talking about São Miguel next on part two, but did you kind of feel kinship to Iceland in a weird way?
Um, a little bit. There are some similarities. Definitely.
Mm,
Of course, the weather is very different.
yeah.
They don't get that extreme cold. It's fairly moderate on the islands, although it can get windy. But it is fairly moderate temperatures, so it is not like Iceland in that respect at all. But it is, there's the volcanic formations, and there is that sense, and it's, every island has its own characteristics too, which is kind of interesting. So, people who visit several of the different islands get a taste, and it's not like a cookie cutter situation where every island is going to be the same. No, they're very distinct and very, very different. There is a very large Mount Brazil, which is quite well known because there's a castle there, and it's at the foot of the mountain. And this was a large fortress, the largest of its kind outside of Spain. And so it's now an extinct volcano. So you can go hiking all around this mountain. It's a protected landscape. It's a natural park, and it has beautiful, beautiful vistas. So a lot of visitors like to go visit Mount Brazil and walk around there.
Mm. And then at the end of it, you can have, some liqueur made with passion fruit or pineapple. I think that's cool.
Yes.
And then there's a tea cake there. There's like
Yeah.
the island has its own tea cake. This is cool.
Yes. It's own pastries, and that's one of the wonderful things, I think. It's just the dulce de vinaigrette, which is kind of that's like a dessert that has kind of like a rice pudding, but the pastries, this one that is like the small little cake light, it's made of actually potatoes and spices, and it really is so delicious. And also the original traditional tea cake, which you mentioned, which got its name as a tribute to the Queen Amelia. She was given it on her first royal visit, and she loved it, so it was named in her honor. So, the pastries are really, every time I had a chance to try a pastry, it was definitely something that I did.
It's a good thing there's hiking out there, right? That's what it sounds like.
There-
Reading
you
your
just keep
article.
moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Move. Be active. If you want to eat, which you always do when you travel, at least I do, when you want to try everything, just keep walking and keep
Or
keep
paddling.
moving.
Keep
Yeah.
paddling, keep walking, as Debbie
That's
does.
right.
But listen, this is the other thing. I want to talk about where you stayed. This is a historic hotel that dated back to the 1600s. Like, you are in the West, right? You were in Santa Fe. And when you
Yep.
talk about the West being historic in regards to hotels and lodging, La Posada is one of the most historic inns, if not hotel, in the country. When you think back
Yep.
to the history of the La Posada, right? If I recall,
Absolutely.
that history is really significant. And when you think of 1600, that's pre-America, in regards to non-indigenous, for thinking about colonialization and non-indigenous. So I just got to clarify that. Um, so when you think about 1600, staying in a hotel from a building of the 1600s, do we get to see that in America that often? Not really. I think the oldest building we've stayed in a bed and breakfast in Pennsylvania in the Brandywine Valley was in the 1700s, and then we stayed in Benjamin Franklin's niece's house from the 1700s in Connecticut. That's the oldest we've been in. So
Yeah, well, Europe, you see a lot of old, older history because America is considered quite young in comparison to Europe. So this hotel, so partly the King of Spain actually once stayed there, and we talked to the woman who is the owner of it, and it's beautifully decorated, very classically. So you feel like you are really in a part of history. this building, and it's nice and spacious, comfortable, nice breakfast. Has a lovely pool, and it's a great place to stay to kind of soak up the atmosphere. It's right across from the water as well, the sea, and so very nice location outside the city center. Very peaceful and very quiet. I also wanted to mention that most of the time during the year on these islands, people can swim in the waters. So on this island, a lot of the beaches are very rocky, but there's a place that's called Biscoitos, which has natural swimming pools in these coves. And so the locals have built these like little platforms, and you can get into the pools that way. And they're outlined with the black rocks from the volcanic eruptions. And so it's quite scenic, quite beautiful. And we were there, and we saw some people in the water. It was a little bit, it wasn't very hot outside, but our guide told us people swim all year round.
Oh, that is amazing. That's so lucky, right? To be able to have that,
Absolutely.
as we all know, when you travel this country, you could get a little cold and nippy, right? It's like, no. So that's amazing that you could, do you think, because it's volcanic too. And so it's almost like you have the geothermal, and it's like having hot springs where you are.
Absolutely. And when we were talking about food, I forgot to mention that there is a culinary specialty, which is called alcatra. And it's extremely well known there. It's like a beef stew, which has a lot of different, it has wine and garlic and some spices, and it's cooked in a clay pot for about 6 to 7 hours until tender. And we went to a special restaurant there that you can have that, and it's really a specialty item. And so that I wanted to make sure that people understood that is something that's quite popular.
And it's cool because it's seasoned with wine, garlic, and spices. We like that. And it's interesting going back to the South African culture, which is an amalgamation of Portuguese, German, Dutch, French, right? And all these different, and then you've got also the different African tribes, right? But the potjiekos is a dish that, and you've been to South Africa. I don't know if you had potjiekos, but it's something that you would go to if you went to a barbecue. Was called a braai. Over there, they would do sausage, which was boerewors, which is farm sausage, basically farm meat, and it's almost like boudin in Louisiana a little bit more than what we have as sausage, and it's just a little bit fattier, and it's cooked with. Everybody wants to put beer on it. I think men just want to drink beer and put beer on everything when they're cooking it, honestly. But potjiekos is a very Dutch tradition. So we think about Dutch oven cooking. So you've got to think also about this dish, alcatra. Alcatra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. Say it again. Alcatra.
Yeah, alcatra.
Yeah,
alcatra.
It's very similar in that everything goes in this pot and is slow cooked, a lot of times underground in this Dutch oven pot kind of thing, and we call it Dutch oven cooking in this country. Over there, it was just potjiekos. But you've got to think these two cultures got together, and one had the pot, the other one said, "I got the rump. Let's put it in there and see what comes out," because everybody lived in the same new place together.
Right.
I wonder about that, and I didn't know the Portuguese did that too. So that's kind of interesting to me. I know it was, the Dutch oven, everybody knows about those, but I now thinking about that dish being an amalgamation from the two cultures. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're making me a little homesick, just saying, and a little hungry because I love good stews. A good stew that's simmered. I mean, you can take the worst cut of meat and the worst vegetables and make something delicious out of it by just simmering with the right spices and wine. See that when you drink wine while you're doing it. So that's 8 hours of wine drinking, everybody. Or maybe you have a liqueur made out of pineapple. That's the other thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if they brought the pineapples over to South Africa. There's whole regions in the Cape for pineapple farming. So now I'm wondering about the Portuguese bringing them over. I have to go back in my history from my school days. Yeah. Huh. Sorry, but it's true. Okay, so everyone, we're going to move on to São Miguel, and that's SAO Miguel. And everyone, again, AzoresChoice.com. I want to say Azores, but AzoresChoice.com is the website to go to plan your vacation over to the Azores. And of course, Debbie's article is in the show notes. We're going to go to part 2 now. And everything will be linked up in all the right places, so you can follow through onto the thread. So everyone, Debbie is here every 4th Tuesday. We call her the fire monkey because she is a fire monkey. She hops over hot geothermal volcanic coals when she goes to the Azores. And that's what she does. But you can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Are you ready for part 2? Let's go.
I am.
All right.